Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 1 hour. The government frames new rule for communication apps using mobile numbers to work only if the SIM is installed in the device. The change to combat cyber fraud will take effect in 90 days. Donald Trump's move to force a no-fly zone over Venezuela draws the ire of neighboring Latin American governments and opposition Democrats over the specter of the US being pushed into another war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu submits a formal request to President Isaac Herzog seeking pardon in corruption cases. The opposition says he should resign and retire from politics. And cyclone-whipped rains batter parts of Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia and Sri Lanka this week, while also threatening India's southeastern coast. Total death toll shoots beyond 750. The Government of India has tightened rules to curb cyber fraud. Apps using mobile numbers can no longer run without the associated SIM in the device. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya with this exclusive news break.
The Government of India has taken a decisive step to strengthen the nation's telecom cybersecurity. It has come to light that several app-based communication services, the ones that use mobile numbers for user identification, allow their platforms to run even when the associated SIM card isn't present in the device. This loophole, officials say, is being exploited from outside the country to commit cyber fraud using Indian mobile numbers. After months of discussion with major service providers, the government has now issued strict directions to stop this misuse and protect the integrity of India's telecom ecosystem. Under the new rules, to be implemented within 90 days, all app-based communication services must ensure one key requirement. The app must remain continuously linked to the specific SIM card used for the account. In simple terms, if the SIM is not active in the device, the app cannot be used. For services that also offers a web version, an additional safeguard has been mandated. All web stations must automatically log out at least once every 6 hours. Users will still be able to reconnect, but only through secure QR code authentication. These measures are designed to shut down a major entry point for cyber criminals who misuse Indian numbers from overseas. With cyber fraud growing rapidly in scale and sophistication, the government's latest move signals a firm intent. With these new rules, the government aims to seal a major security gap and curb rising cyber fraud cases. Service providers now have 90 days to comply, a move expected to make India's digital ecosystem safer and more accountable for every user. With camera person Manmohan, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
The government convened a key meeting in New Delhi on Sunday with 50 leaders from 36 different political parties to prepare for the winter session of Parliament chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and convened by Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju. The session is set to begin from the 1st of December, which is Monday, and run until the 19th, featuring 15 sittings and 14 legislative items. Tentative bills include the Jan Vishwas Amendment, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment, and Higher Education Commission of India Bill, alongside supplementary demands for grants. Party leaders voiced concerns and pledged full cooperation for smooth proceedings. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the nation in the 128th edition of his monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat on Sunday. During the program, the PM highlighted the inauguration of the world's largest LEAP engine maintenance, repair and overhaul or MRO facility and the induction of Indian Navy's newest anti-submarine warfare ship INS Mahe. Further, he urged citizens to celebrate festivals with the spirit of vocal for local. With Christmas and New Year shopping beginning soon, the PM emphasized on buying only what is made in India and selling only what carries the hard work of fellow Indians forward.
मुझे खुशी है कि वोकल फॉर लोकल की भावना को देश के करोड़ों लोगों ने अपने जीवन का हिस्सा बना लिया है। इस साल जब आप त्योहारों की खरीदारी के लिए बाजार में गए होंगे, तो एक बात आप सभी ने महसूस की होगी, लोगों की पसंद और घरों में आने वाले सामानों में एक साफ संकेत दिखाई दे रहा था कि देश स्वदेशी की ओर लौट रहा है। लोग अपने मन से भारतीय उत्पादों को चुन रहे थे। इस बदलाव को छोटे से छोटे दुकानदार ने भी महसूस किया। इस बार युवाओं ने भी वोकल फॉर लोकल अभियान को गति दी। आने वाले कुछ दिन में क्रिसमस और नए वर्ष पर खरीदारी का नया दौर शुरू होने वाला है। मैं आपको फिर याद दिलाऊंगा, वोकल फॉर लोकल का मंत्र याद रखें। खरीदें वही जो देश में बना हो, बेचे वही जिसमें किसी देशवासी की मेहनत लगी हो।
And the Prime Minister also attended the 60th All India Conference on Director Generals or Inspector Generals of Police at the Indian Institute of Management, Raipur in Chhattisgarh. The three-day conference is themed Viksit Bharat, which means Developed India, Security Dimensions. The PM highlighted the need to strengthen urban policing, reinvigorating tourist police and increasing public awareness regarding the newly enacted Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam and Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, which replaced the colonial-era criminal laws. He reiterated the importance of establishing mechanisms for regular monitoring of banned outfits, ensuring the holistic development of areas freed from left-wing extremism, and adopting innovative models to strengthen coastal security. He also stressed the urgent need to transform the public perception of the police, particularly among the youth, by enhancing professionalism, sensitivity, and responsiveness. Now, tensions are rising between the US and Venezuela after President Donald Trump declared Venezuelan airspace closed. Caracas has slammed the move as a colonialist threat and an attack on its sovereignty. The warning comes amid a major US military buildup in the Caribbean and months of strikes on alleged drug-running vessels. DD India's Rabindra Chauhan has more.
Venezuela has condemned US President Donald Trump's declaration that Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed, calling it a colonialist threat and an illegal attack on its sovereignty. Trump's statement posted on social media provided no details. The warning followed an FAA alert urging airlines to exercise caution near Venezuela, which led several carriers to suspend flights.
What we're seeing in Venezuela, which is very different, is a fairly significant U.S. military buildup that is now in place in different parts of the Caribbean and Latin America, and what seemed like pretty overt threats from President Trump, warning of possible military action, covert action. So the U.S. isn't really trying to hide what it may wind up doing to President Maduro.
The announcement comes amid a major US military buildup in the Caribbean and rising pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government, including operations targeting alleged drug trafficking routes.
I think it's unfair because there are people who need to travel for work, business, and to see our family, and we Venezuelans are not to blame for these situations. We are the ones who pay the consequences for the things that are happening.
Amid the standoff, Venezuela's military held coastal defense exercises. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said the country has faced 17 weeks of psychological warfare as US pressure intensifies across the Caribbean and South America. Caracas dismissed US actions as colonial ambitions, while residents voiced concerns about travel disruption. Venezuela also said Trump's declaration effectively halts migrant repatriation flights and called on the international community to reject what it described as an aggressive unilateral act. Following the FAA warning, Caracas revoked operating rights for several airlines. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Meanwhile, Latin American countries and the regional group ALBA has condemned Donald Trump's threat to close Venezuelan airspace. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez said the U.S. government's attempt to close airspace is an illegal and unreasonable intervention in Venezuela's sovereignty. Colombian President Gustavo Petro questioned Trump, saying which rule of international law allows the president of one country to close the airspace of another nation, while leaders in Nicaragua reaffirmed support for Venezuela's sovereignty. Now, Saturday brought news of how a major Russian attack on Ukraine killed 6 people and wounded dozens, while emergency crews restored power to over 400,000 homes in Kyiv. Ukraine also hit back, targeting 2 oil tankers in the Black Sea, said to be part of the Russian shadow fleet carrying out sanctioned energy trade. And at the same time, all eyes are in Florida, where Ukrainian negotiators are meeting U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner to continue talks on an agreement to end the conflict.
Kyiv faces intense pressure on both military and political fronts to end the conflict with Russia. And with this goal in mind, Ukrainian negotiators have descended on the United States for talks on Washington's plan for a resolution of a lasting peace between the two warring parties. The Ukraine team, now led by Rustem Umerov, is due to meet US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in Florida on Sunday. Washington has put forth a plan to end the more than 3-year conflict that it is seeking to finalize with Moscow and Kyiv's approval. An initial 28-point proposal drafted without input from Ukraine's European allies would have seen Kyiv withdraw from its eastern Donetsk region and the United States to de facto recognize the Donetsk, Crimea, and Lugansk regions as Russian. Ahead of the talks in the United States, Russian forces targeted Ukraine's capital and the region for 2 nights in a row. A drone attack in the outskirts of Kyiv killed 6 persons and wounded dozens. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that work is still underway after large-scale Russian missile and drone attacks targeting the country's energy infrastructure. He said strengthening air defense remains Kyiv's #1 priority.
Work still underway after large-scale Russian missile and drone attacks targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Strengthening air defense remains Kyiv's #1 priority.
Upping the ante, Ukraine has also struck back at Russia. A Ukrainian security source said Ukraine was behind attacks on 2 oil tankers in the Black Sea that were suspected of transporting sanctioned Russian oil. As Washington seeks to push a plan to end the conflict, President Macron will host his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, for talks in Paris on Monday. The two leaders will discuss the conditions for a just and lasting peace. Bureau Report, DD India.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu submitted a request to the country's president on Sunday for a pardon in his years-long corruption trial, arguing that criminal proceedings have been hindering his ability to govern and a pardon would serve the interests of Israeli society. Netanyahu has long denied the bribery, fraud and breach of trust charges. His lawyers, in a letter to the president's office, said that the Prime Minister still believes the legal proceedings would result in a complete acquittal. Earlier this month, US President Donald Trump had written to Herzog asking him to pardon Netanyahu, who has repeatedly denied wrongdoing in the ongoing corruption cases.
My lawyer submitted a request for a pardon to the President of the state today. I expect that all those who place the good of the country above all else will support this step. The state of Israel faces immense challenge and alongside them, tremendous opportunities. To repel the threats and to seize these opportunities, national unity is required. The continuation of the trial is tearing us apart from within, stirring intense divisions and deepening rifts.
Now, Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid has called on President Herzog not to pardon Netanyahu unless he admits to guilt, expresses remorse and retires from politics.
From here, I call on President Herzog. You cannot pardon him without an admission of guilt, an expression of remorse, and an immediate retirement from the political life.
And Israelis too oppose the pardon, saying that Netanyahu only gets a chance of a pardon if a court finds him guilty or if he resigns with certain conditions.
I think that if he would resign, I would be happy to grant him reconciliation. My son was killed on October 7th on the kibbutz, and I think that he should take responsibility for that. He should resign, and he should encourage setting up a national committee of inquiry. So there's justification for ending the trial, but only if he would resign.
If he can't manage being the Prime Minister of the country and going to the trial, he should resign as Prime Minister. And I would be very happy to see him resign and for the trial to come to an end. And if he is found guilty, then he can apply for a pardon. But to ask for a pardon without admitting any guilt, without losing any position, without it affecting his life whatsoever, other than that he gets off scot-free, I certainly don't think that he should get it.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Newshour. The UK Labour government prepares to unveil a major overhaul of the criminal justice system next week. Switzerland overwhelmingly rejects a proposed 50% tax on inherited fortunes of 15 million Swiss francs and above, with 78% of votes against the move. And the San Diego Zoo is mourning the loss of one of its most legendary residents.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Britain's Labour government is preparing one of the most sweeping criminal justice reforms in decades, aiming to clear a massive court backlog. However, the push to scale back jury trials is already sparking debate about fairness and the future of justice in the UK. DD India's Rupa Kumar Jha has this report.
The UK Labour government is preparing to unveil a major overhaul of the criminal justice system next week, targeting a Crown Court backlog that has surged to nearly 80,000 cases. Officials warn the figure could cross 100,000 by 2028 without sweeping reforms. According to the Deputy Prime Minister and Secretary of State for Justice, David Lammy, victims are being failed by year-long delays, with some hearings now scheduled as far ahead as 2030. More than a quarter of cases wait over a year, while in rape cases an estimated 60% of complainants withdraw before trial. The reforms are expected to build on recommendations made earlier this year, urging moving thousands of trials away from juries for less serious offences. The proposal comes amid a deeper crisis in the justice system. Prisons are operating at more than 97% capacity. Probation services are struggling to recruit, and remand levels have hit their highest point in 5 decades. Campaigners, however, warn that limiting jury trials could disproportionately harm ethnic minorities and increase the risk of miscarriages of justice. With serious crime indicators rising, including over 51,000 knife offences and more than 500,000 shoplifting cases last year, the government faces a tight balance between speeding up justice and safeguarding fairness. Rupak Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
Switzerland has overwhelmingly rejected a proposed 50% tax on inherited fortunes over 50 million Swiss francs, with 78% of votes in a referendum against the move, an outcome which even exceeded the two-thirds opposition indicated in polls. Critics of the initiative said it could trigger an exodus of wealthy people from Switzerland, reducing overall tax revenues. Shiva Mishra unravels the proposals in detail.
The Swiss first proposal, the Civic Duty Initiative, seeks to replace the current men-only military with a compulsory national service for both men and women.
Yes, I think it's good that women are subject to the same, I wouldn't say obligations, but the same constraints as men. I'm for equality. So let's start with the civic service.
Opponents argue the initiative overlooks the realities faced by women and could overload public systems.
I think it's just something extra, too much for women who already have enough to do, both professionally and with their families.
The second proposal, Initiative for a Future, put forward by the youth wing of Switzerland's Socialist Party, calls for a 50% inheritance tax on fortunes above 50 million Swiss francs, estimated to affect some 2,500 households. Supporters argue that Switzerland needs bold and sustainable funding to meet its climate goals, saying the wealthiest citizens are well positioned to contribute. Opponents, however, warn that such a steep tax could drive wealthy individuals and family owned businesses to relocate, potentially weakening the Swiss economy and harming investment. Shiva Mishra's report for DD India.
The death toll in the Hong Kong residential estate fire has climbed to 146, with the police warning it may rise as search teams recover more remains. Over 50 remains are still unidentified and around 40 people still missing, while 18 injured continue to battle for life. Thousands of mourners gathered across Hong Kong on Sunday as authorities have launched multiple investigations, with the anti-corruption watchdog arresting 11 people and the police detaining 3 on manslaughter charges. Hundreds of people gathered across Croatia on Sunday to protest against intolerance and the normalization of extremist attitudes. The demonstrations were sparked off by a recent series of attacks targeting members of the Serbian minority during a cultural event, which activists say reflects a broader pattern of hostility towards minority communities and foreign workers. Protesters expressed concern that rising social tensions and attempts to intimidate minority groups signal a drift away from democratic values and basic human security. A coordinated air rescue mission by the Indian Air Force saved 24 stranded passengers and 3 critically injured individuals in Sri Lanka's disaster-hit Kotmale region. According to officials, a Mi-17 helicopter deployed by India under ongoing humanitarian assistance airlifted 24 people to Colombo. The rescue group included 12 Indian nationals, 10 other foreign tourists and 2 Sri Lankans, as well as a pregnant woman. In a parallel effort, 3 critically injured casualties were transported to Colombo for urgent medical care. Earlier in the day, 5 teams comprising 40 Sri Lankan Army personnel were also flown from Diatalaba Army Camp to assist operations on the ground in Kotmale, where landslides and flash floods continue to hamper access. In addition, the NDRF's teams distributed medical and emergency supplies to stranded residents in Puttalam. Meanwhile, Indian Air Force aircraft have helped in airlifting stranded passengers to Thiruvananthapuram and Hindon. At least 334 people have died and 370 remain missing, according to the latest situation report issued by the Disaster Management Centre in Sri Lanka. The highest number of deaths has been reported from the districts of Kandy, Badulla, Nuwara and Matare. Kandy has also recorded the highest number of missing persons, with 150 unaccounted for. A total of 1,118,929 individuals of 309,607 families have been affected island-wide. And an NDRF team initiated a search and rescue operation at Badulla, which has been among the worst hit with large number of landslides due to Cyclone Dwa. Speaking to DD India Special Correspondent, Deputy Minister for Tourism coordinating the rescue efforts, Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe thanked the Indian government and NDRF teams for search and rescue efforts in landslide-hit region.
We are grateful to the Indian government and NDRF's rescue missions. Badulla is one of the highest affected places in this disaster, and particularly there are several sites still. Number of bodies altogether we have at the moment today in the morning 9:30 information I have, there are about 53 unearthed bodies. So all these are needed attention. So mainly the NDRF teams will be deployed to unearth all these missing bodies in the landslide sites. I think there is much more needed assistance, particularly in rescuing the affected areas, especially roads are collapsed and bridges are washed away.
And heavy winds as well as rain have been pounding India's eastern coast as Cyclone Dwa has been edging closer to land, triggered red alerts, flooding concerns and a massive emergency response across Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Puducherry. The cyclone is very likely to move nearly northwards, parallel to North Tamil Nadu, Puducherry coasts and weaken into a deep depression. Here's more.
Heavy rains lashed wide stretches of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Puducherry on Sunday. Cyclonic storm Dwa over the southwest Bay of Bengal and adjoining North Tamil Nadu-Puducherry coast moved northwards. It is very likely to move nearly northwards, parallel to North Tamil Nadu-Puducherry coast and weaken into deep depression.
After becoming a depression, it will be impacting the south Andhra Pradesh coast and that area. So today and as well as tomorrow, it will be impacting the North Tamil Nadu as well as South Andhra Pradesh. And this strong wind, now it is 80 kmph, gusting to 90 kmph, but it will gradually decrease. After some time, it will become 60 to 70. And then by evening time, it will become, it will be the squally wind, 50 to 60 kmph.
In Tamil Nadu, the northeast monsoon remained vigorous, unleashing widespread showers as the system tracked northward along the Tamil Nadu-Puducherry shoreline. The IMD has issued red alerts for several northern districts, though rainfall is expected to ease gradually from Monday with lighter, scattered showers forecast. In Andhra Pradesh, authorities are on high alert. An NDRF team has been deployed in Nellore district where intense rainfall has swollen the Somasila reservoir and sent strong inflows surging into the Penna River, which is now flowing in full speed.
And because of the heavy rainfall and gale winds are likely today, people are requested to be in safer place, and fishermen are advised not to venture into the sea till tomorrow, 1st December 2025. And under the influence of the cyclone, lower-lying areas may get water inundation and local flooding may occur, and breaking of small trees or uprooting of small trees and uprooting of electric poles may occur, and collapse of old mud houses or mudslide, landslide over ghat areas may occur. So people are requested to be in safe place.
The Union Territory of Puducherry is currently witnessing moderate rains as the storm's eye edges closer to the coast. Storm warning signal number 5, the danger warning indicating an approaching cyclonic landfall, has been hoisted at the port. As Cyclone Dwa intensifies, the NDRF has rolled out a full-scale preparedness drive, positioning specialized teams across vulnerable districts to support evacuation, rescue and emergency response efforts.
Are equipped with floodwater rescue. We are also equipped with a collapse structure search and rescue because due to continuous rainfall, old buildings, they may get collapsed. So in order to identify a live victim buried under a rubble, we are having specially trained sniffer dogs. Our teams are well prepared and well equipped with all kinds of floodwater related rescue equipments, and with respect to collapse structure also, our teams are well prepared.
As authorities stay on high alert and preparedness measures intensify, the focus now remains on protecting life and minimizing damage as Cyclone Dwa nears the coast. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. A newly discovered painting by 17th century Flemish master Peter Paul Rubens fetched 2.3 million euros at an auction in Versailles on Sunday. The painting, titled Christ on Cross, depicts an image of Jesus Christ nailed on the cross with a view of Calvary and the walled city of Jerusalem in the background. The San Diego Zoo is mourning the loss of one of its most legendary residents. Grandma, a Galapagos tortoise, believed to be 141 years old, died last week. She was part of the first group of tortoises brought to the zoo nearly a century ago, between 1928 and 1931, and was thought to be in her 40s at that time. In Austria's spa town of Bad Tatzmannsdorf, the Goldenhuber family has transformed its 1.3-acre estate into what is known as Europe's largest Christmas house. Adorned with close to 1 million lights and around 250 inflatable figures, the dazzling display attracts thousands of visitors each year. And still to come on DD India Newshour. We'll be speaking with our expert guest on Donald Trump's latest eyebrow-raising no-fly zone move over Venezuela and its possible fallout.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. The government frames new rules for communication apps using mobile numbers to work only if the SIM is installed in the device. The change is to combat cyber fraud and will take effect in 90 days. Donald Trump's move to force a no-fly zone over Venezuela draws the ire of neighboring Latin American governments and opposition Democrats over the specter of the US being pushed into another war. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu submits a formal request to President Isaac Herzog seeking pardon in corruption cases. The opposition says he should resign and retire from politics. And cyclone-whipped rains batter parts of Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia and Sri Lanka this week, while also threatening India's southeastern coast. Total death toll shoots beyond 750. Let's now take you back to one of our top stories, which is all about Donald Trump raising the specter of war in Latin America, Caribbean Latin America, with the kind of moves that he's been making vis-a-vis Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro. Let's now talk about it because the latest is the imposition of a no-fly zone over Venezuela. We're joined by Ishwardhan Sinha, former Indian High Commissioner to Venezuela. Good evening to you. Mr. Sinha, what do you make of the latest move and what is it likely to precipitate?
You know, this is a latest manifestation of gunboat diplomacy. I think ever since Venezuela fell out of the US orbit when Hugo Chavez became president in 1998, there has been a persistent attempt by the US to topple the government's, Hugo Chavez's government. There was a coup soon after he took over, and also attempted coup, and Nicolas Maduro since he took over in 2013 after the demise of Hugo Chavez. However, having said that, we must also realize that the last elections held in Venezuela were a sham, because clearly the opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez had won, but the results in fact was stayed, the counting was stayed, and the commission that supervises the elections, they announced a victory for the incumbent, for the sitting president, Nicolas Maduro. So obviously, there's a whole host of factors at play here. And the last but not the least, obviously, is the drug menace which President Trump cites as the cause, the real reason for his action at present.
Right. But what about this charge that Nicolas Maduro is backed by the Carte de los Soles, which is one of the biggest drug cartels, and that is the reason, one big reason. The other, of course, is migrants from Venezuela.
You know, as far as drugs go, there's obviously a problem in the entire, the region there. And the flow of fentanyl has become a big issue as far as the US is concerned, not just in the region, but in dealings with China, for instance, and other countries. President Trump and his administration have emphasized the need to crack down on the fentanyl that is coming into the United States. But, the irony is that most of that fentanyl, or not most, but a large percentage, is coming through Mexico, really. And while I'm not giving Venezuela a clean sheet, I'm sure it is in many ways a kleptocracy, not a democracy. And there may be some truth in that because, they're desperate to survive. And their economic situation, they're in very dire economic situation. I mean, imagine Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Russia and more than Saudi Arabia, and yet they have not been able to really exploit their oil resources the way they should have. Earlier, it was entirely under American control, and then when Hugo Chavez came, he nationalized the major oil company, PDVSA. And in fact, since then, there's been a steady, if not a downhill curve as far as Venezuela's oil production is concerned. And you shouldn't forget that in the past, that heavy oil that Venezuela produces was almost not entirely, but a large percentage was sent to the United States. The refineries in the southern United States, in Texas, in Louisiana, where they were refined. But now, of course, Venezuela exports to various countries, including China and even India. India was a major buyer at one point, but not now. I mean, Venezuela is still a supplier, but not a major supplier, simply because their economy is collapsing.
Okay, and this whole prospect of a conflict with Venezuela or a war, in the first place, imposing a no-fly zone on a country which is twice the size of California itself is quite huge, deploying the largest airplane carrier that is there, the formation to that region as well in the waters. Again, a huge move. A lot of resources being diverted there as well in terms of US military might. What does it really imply? Would boots be put on the ground? Because the Americans are quite averse to that in general.
It's obviously a very blatant show of force. The Gerald R. Ford, the biggest aircraft carrier, the most sophisticated one that the US has been deployed in those waters in the Caribbean. They have, I think, 12 other ships and a large number of Marines there. But I doubt very much that they will put boots on the ground because Venezuela is not really a walkover. They have they have assistance from countries like China and Russia, and it wouldn't be easy. Of course, I mean, the result is a foregone conclusion. However, it won't be really a cakewalk. And in that situation, I mean, it's difficult to bomb the country out of the skies as they did in Iraq or in some other countries. It'll be difficult. But if they try and put boots on the ground like in Afghanistan, then there will be a price to pay. So I think President Trump is gauging the situation. I'm not sure whether he's made a decision. Well, the no-fly zone is upping the ante, and we'll have to wait and see what really happens.
Mm-hmm. And what about the options of, say, what was done by the US primarily, but with the NATO stamp of approval in Libya, which led to the end of Gaddafi's regime, or the other is issue, if to put enough pressure on Maduro to himself seek a way out. I believe that Trump and Maduro spoke as well about a week ago, and the question of amnesty was sort of explored.
I think the only solution that the US wants is Maduro out, and not only Maduro, but the people behind him. So I think it's going to be very difficult because Maduro himself obviously realizes that if he's out of power, he is finished. I mean, even an amnesty, I don't know what sort of amnesty they're looking at, but there will be, reprisals, and, law will catch up because he's been extremely brutal in suppressing the opposition. And that's why you had someone like Maria Corina Machado winning the Nobel Peace Prize this year. And you had, the Edmundo Gonzalez, the candidate who actually should have been the president today, and he was the substitute candidate because they barred Maria Machado from standing. So I think it's going to be a very difficult bargain for Maduro. I personally feel if he accepts to step down, that would probably solve the problem in terms of lives being spared, not too many lives being lost. But if he doesn't, and there is an invasion, and don't forget, the United States invaded Grenada some decades ago, but Grenada is a very small country. Venezuela is not the same.
And how do you think the Indian government would be viewing the situation? Because we're still to hear, I mean, it's the weekend when Donald Trump made that unilateral sort of an announcement of a no-fly zone. So we haven't really heard from the Ministry of External Affairs. But keeping in mind its interests in the region, what would the Indian government like to see happen?
You see, as far as India is concerned, there are two. One is, of course, a matter of principle. On a matter of principle, we always oppose unilateral action. And that is why we support strengthening the United Nations. I mean, the United Nations Security Council should be seized of the matter and take a decision which is in the best interest of global peace. Unfortunately, the United Nations Security Council is moribund and is unable to take action unless the Americans, I mean, there was this resolution on Gaza, which is the most bizarre, that the UN Security Council passed recently. But be that as it may, I think the primary responsibility is of the UN and not the United States. But because the United States is known to be taking unilateral action, has taken so in the past, and especially in its own backyard, I think a message is being conveyed, not just to the international community as a whole, but to China and Russia, not to meddle in the region. And if you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the former Soviet Union and the US came very close to what could have been a catastrophic war, I think the US is very sensitive about other big powers meddling in the region. But I think the reason for that is because the US has been also behaving like a hegemon in that region, and regime change. In the past, they have been involved in all sorts of coups and change of government. So I think there is a way to resolve this problem. Obviously, Maduro is lost his legitimacy because it's very clear that in the last elections he had lost, and he lost badly. But somehow, with a pliant sort of election commission, or an organization that conducts elections, they completely overturn the result. So it is a very dichotomous situation. However, you don't take the law into your own hands. There are ways and methods of dealing with problems like this.
Okay. But let's see what happens. For the moment, we don't know whether Maduro will give up, or he will be brazen and be in defiance. Still to hear anything on that front, and which will determine which way this latest flashpoint really goes. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Basta Sinha.
Thank you.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the country. Now, two state government buses collided near Kumagudi Bridge on Tirupatur Karaikuri Road in Sivaganga district of Tamil Nadu on Sunday. Bus travelling from Tirupatur to Karaikuri and another heading from Karaikuri to Dindigul were involved in the head-on crash. 11 people lost their lives, while more than 40 passengers are receiving treatment in hospitals across Madurai, Karaikuri and Tirupatur. Traffic was disrupted for several hours before the police diverted vehicles to alternate routes. A case has been registered and investigation is underway. The ninth reincarnation of revered Buddhist guru Yulgyal Tulku Rinpoche has been confirmed in a 4-year-old boy, religious leaders announced at the Kinnaur Jagi Monastery in Himachal Pradesh. The recognition marks a significant spiritual event for the Buddhist community, continuing a centuries-old tradition of lineage and devotion. The Indian Army has flagged off the Skyward Resolve hot air balloon expedition from Bhopal on Sunday. Conducted by the Electronics and Mechanical Engineers Centre under the Army Adventure Wing, the event was inaugurated by Army officials. The expedition will pass through Mao, Dhule and Aurangabad before concluding in Pune on the 10th of December, with the team aiming to set a new Asian record for the longest free flight. Now, on the 25th of November this year, marked a significant cultural and civilizational milestone in the history of India. On this auspicious day, the construction work of the Ram Birthplace Temple was formally completed in Ayodhya, where Prime Minister Modi hoisted the sacred saffron flag atop the temple spire. This religious ceremony became a magnificent symbol of India's enduring spiritual heritage, a testament to centuries of unwavering faith and cultural resilience.
Ayodhya city of northern India once again witnessed a golden chapter of history on 25th November. The saffron flag was ceremoniously hoisted at Sri Ram Janmabhoomi temple with the sound of conch, chanting of mantras and chants of Jai Shri Ram. The entire Ayodhya echoed with devotion and enthusiasm. This is not just a religious ceremony but a glorious celebration of India's soul, faith and belief. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a unique chapter of the country's cultural history has also been added in Ayodhya, which is the Saptamandir complex, a grand symbol of India's spiritual tradition and social harmony. For the first time in the country, the Saptamandir has given place to those great personalities who were not only associated with the story of Lord Ram, but were living messengers of social harmony, equality and unity. This inclusive thinking is the true essence of Ram Rajya, and the same inclusive policy is the guiding mantra of Prime Minister Modi's efforts as well.
हमारे राम भेद से नहीं, भाव से जुड़ते हैं। उनके लिए व्यक्ति का कुल नहीं, उसकी भक्ति महत्वपूर्ण है। उन्हें वंश नहीं, मूल्य प्रिय है। उन्हें शक्ति नहीं, सहयोग महान लगता है। आज हम भी उसी भावना से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
Maharshi Valmiki, who rose from the marginalized section of society, wrote the world's greatest scripture, Ramayana. He proved that knowledge is attained through devotion, not birth. Maharishi Vashisht, the guide of righteousness, ethics and balance, gave Sri Ram the fundamental principles of ideal governance and justice. Maharishi Vishwamitra renounced luxury and became a sage from a king. He gave the inspiration that with penance and determination, even the impossible becomes possible. Maharishi Agastya, who guided Lord Sri Ram and connected northern and southern cultural streams, was the bridge of harmony and balance. Nishad Raj, a supreme example of friendship and equality beyond social barriers, proved purity of heart to be the highest truth. Mata Shabri, the invaluable message of love and devotion, whose tasted berries were accepted by Sri Ram like a mother's affection. Devi Ahilya, redeemed by the touch of Sri Ram, proved that a second chance's life is always possible.
यहाँ सप्त मंदिर बने हैं। यहाँ माता शबरी का मंदिर बना है, जो जनजातीय समाज के प्रेम भाव और आतिथ्य परंपरा की प्रतिमूर्ति है। यहाँ निषाद का मंदिर बना है, ये उस मित्रता का साक्षी है जो साधन नहीं, साध्य को, उसकी भावना को पूजती है। यहाँ एक ही स्थान पर माता अहिल्या है, महर्षि वाल्मीकि है, महर्षि वशिष्ठ है, महर्षि विश्वामित्र है, महर्षि अगस्त्य है और संत तुलसीदास है। राम लला के साथ साथ इन सभी ऋषियों के दर्शन भी यहीं पर होते हैं। ये मंदिर हमारी आस्था के साथ साथ मित्रता, कर्तव्य और सामाजिक सद्भाव के मूल्यों को भी शक्ति देते हैं।
The construction of Sri Ram Temple is not merely an effort to restore a cultural identity, but a history of everyone's contribution for a larger cause. The journey of Ram Temple was not only completed with sacrifice, penance and struggle, but also with everyone's participation, efforts and resolve. This temple is a symbol of India's character, where harmony, equality and unity are the soul of Ram Raj. Ram Temple, the glory of the past, the inspiration of the present, and the guiding light for the future. This temple says, when society works together, the nation achieves greatness. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the creation of a new India is not merely a development campaign, but a resolution for harmonious society, equality, and respect for all. Bureau Report, DD India.
Banaras Hindu University students came together in a spirited run for KTS, which is Kashi Tamil Sangamam, celebrating the bond that unites Tamil Nadu and Kashi. Each step echoed heritage, unity and the shared pride that prepares everyone for Kashi Tamil Sangamam on the 2nd of December. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan met senior UAE ministers during his visit to the Emirates to strengthen economic partnerships and explore new areas of cooperation between Kerala and the UAE. The Chief Minister held discussions with Mohammed Al-Girgawi, Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Abdullah bin Tuq Al-Marri, Minister of Economy, and Thani bin Ahmed Al-Zayudi, Minister of Foreign Trade, focusing on investment opportunities and potential partnerships in emerging sectors. He also met Badr Al-Ulama, Director General of the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and Fahad Al-Girgawi, Under Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Trade. Now, the 9th edition of the Dubai Fitness Challenge, or DFC, officially concluded on Sunday with the successful staging of Dubai Yoga 2025, a large-scale community yoga session held at Zabil Park in the shadow of the Dubai frame. The closing ceremony, titled Dubai Yoga 2025, drew thousands of participants of all ages and abilities for a 2-hour sunset session led by internationally acclaimed yoga instructor and former US Marine Dylan Werner, supported by a team of certified trainers. Initiated by Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Crown Prince of Dubai, the Dubai Fitness Challenge ran from the 1st to the 30th of November this year.
So the Dubai Fitness Challenge is an initiative of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and the vision behind this initiative is to make Dubai one of the most active cities in the world. So during the Dubai Fitness Challenge, we make fitness very accessible to the whole city. There's different activities and different sports and different events that people can take part in. And the whole idea is that once people have developed those good habits for 30 days, ideally it will be something that people develop for their entire life, and people have these healthy habits last them their entire life.
Pope Leo XIV arrived in Lebanon on Sunday for a 2-day visit aiming to deliver a message of peace. The American pontiff landed in Beirut from Turkey and will meet President Joseph Aoun, the Arab world's only Christian head of state. He'll also address authorities and diplomats at the presidential palace. And now let's get you some sporting updates as well. Well, the update from Ranchi is electrifying. India has won the first ODI against South Africa. After a shaky start, India's batting lineup roared back to life. Virat Kohli stole the show, smashing a historic 135 runs to record his 52nd ODI century. He was well supported by Rohit Sharma's 57 and KL Rahul's 60, helping India post a massive target of 350 runs. South Africa's chase began as a nightmare, crumbling to 8 for 2 early on thanks to a fiery spell from Harshad Rana. However, a fighting partnership of 120-plus runs between Matthew Brietzke and Marco Jansen briefly gave the visitors hope. But just as they looked dangerous, Kuldeep Yadav struck a double blow, removing both set batters in quick succession as Corbin Bosch powered South Africa's chase in the death overs, which came to an end at 3:32 in the 49th over. Now, the Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon, which has become one of India's largest sporting platforms for philanthropy, raised more than 4.12 crore Indian rupees for 16 social causes in the 20th edition, which took place on the 12th of October this year. The organizers of the event organized philanthropy awards to celebrate significant fundraising achievements and acknowledge those who made the event a success. DD India's Abhishek Prasad spoke to the organizer of the event, Vivek Singh.
Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon, the spirit of running meets the passion of giving, with more than 85 crore rupees raised over 2 decades. The Run for Zero Hunger is not just a race, it's a movement. And today with me is the MD of Program International, Vivek Singh, the organizer of the Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon. Sir, over 2 decades, Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon has raised more than 88 crore rupees. How do you look at this movement and the way Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon is run?
First of all, thank you. Doordarshan has been with us since the inception of the event, so congratulations to Doordarshan as well. The Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon has been more than an event. It has been a socio-sporting revolution that has not just transformed Delhi but has transformed India. Whether you talk women empowerment, from a less than 100 women running in 2005 to almost 10,000 running in 2025, it has truly led to women empowerment. Whether you talk about giving our Indian athletes a platform to compete against the world's best on home turf, Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon has done that. Whether you talk of health and fitness, mobilizing lakhs of people to take up healthy living, to make a commitment to themselves, to their families, of making healthier choices, or empathy, to talk about philanthropy, running for somebody less privileged. All these have come together to make Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon special. And it's not just, it's everybody associated, the government of Delhi, the government of India through the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, whether it's the Delhi Police, whether it's the New Delhi Municipal Corporation or the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, everybody has come together to take pride. Indian Army has been such a big supporter, all the defense forces. When you actually go to analyze that, you realize that that is why we call it a movement. When every part of society is present, there are champions with disability, there are senior citizens running, there are able-bodied running, there are elite athletes, there's the common man, there's the corporate czar. It's truly a representation of society at its best, and that is what is most beautiful about the Vedanta Delhi House.
So there you heard from Vivek Singh, the MD of Program International, stating how large the Vedanta Delhi Half Marathon has grown over the last 20 years. With cameraman Rajesh Vicky, Abhishek Prasad for DD India.
Well, that's all we could pack into DD India News Hour for the moment. For all the latest, keep watching DD India.